Welcome to Bid on You, the podcast, where we help you navigate the chaos of life and experience the bliss of backing yourself. Hosted by yours truly, Marissa Lee. Every Friday, we sit down with creatives, artists, influencers, and just the regular folks to talk dating, adulting, faith, culture, and all the random thoughts in between. It's time to bid on you. So let's start the show. Welcome back to Bid on You Season 2. It's up. This is so weird to be back. Better than ever. I'm featuring one of my bestie pops to kick us off, but we're so excited that you're back with us and y'all were tuned in for season 1. Y'all were giving great feedback, great engagements. We know this is going to be a fun little journey to continue to do together for our sophomore season, if you will. And today we're going to be joined by a creative extraordinaire, if you will, and my girl Mika Cribbs. She's excited to be here. It's faint, but it's there to chat about just how y'all can chase your dreams while working your 9 to 5. So if you're looking for some advice or just need that little extra push to get started, stick around. But before we start the show, we have a little housekeeping.
Yes.
Okay, sweep. We want to make sure if you like the show, you should rate the show. You should actually like it, like let the people know, right? Hit download so you don't miss any episode drops. Because sometimes my friends will text me and be like, oh, I didn't know you had an episode out. Probably because
your notifications are not on.
Probably because it's not downloaded. Weird. Imagine. And also, in case you can't do none of that, you can follow us at Bid on You, the podcast, on Instagram and TikTok so you don't miss a beat. All righty. Let's get
your socials. So cute. I'm a fan. The content.
She knows. She knows her stuff. Okay, so I think it could be cute to chat through some of like the examples. I was thinking of people who kind of had their like 9 to 5 going on or their career or whatever it may be. But then they had like their kind of side passion projects that turned into their life in some capacity, or also just being able to balance both. I did recently see, did you see? Yes. Angel Reese has a podcast.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I said, interesting. And people were being weird about it on social media, naturally, as they always are. And somebody was like, well, she very much was a communications, like has a comms degree. So, you know, we be doing anything with that. As a comms degree holder myself, I'll tell you, we be doing anything. And I think that's such a good example of, okay, I'm more than one thing and being multifaceted as a creative. And then, of course, Ava DuVernay, who was a publicist.
Yeah, right. Oh, love her story.
Like, she's, honestly, if you don't know, keep playing the episode, but open up a tab. Don't turn off the episode. Or research this after. But she was a publicist, and she used basically those connections to start her own, what even is she? I don't even know. Producer, filmmaker, everything. And I think it's like she didn't even do that until she was like late 30s or 40s. So it's like, there's so many gems in that. Never too late. We'll be on that forever. But we'll start out with you. Okay. Now that we've kind of given some examples, tell us a little bit about your career and creative journey.
Okay, so I guess I'll just preface, like, I'm 30, so we've been in the game, I know.
You are? Me. I forget. Okay, sorry, go ahead. I do that every time.
I know, so 12 years of, like, since the very first graphic design class I ever took was 12 years ago. My senior year in high school, just moved to a whole new school. And I saw the graphic design class and I was like the first thing I wanted to take. Like I just knew.
Not a calling.
And I feel like you've heard this story so many times.
No, it's the way I don't know where I was last week. Like it's news to me.
And so I kind of had an inkling for like design. I'm a huge fan of like Pharrell. And at the time it was like Tumblr days. So
naturally.
You know, very much like
not
the
Tumblr
swag era that had
right.
a chokehold. That was the pandemic of our era.
Exactly.
But yeah, I was really into like graphics and like cover art and like billboards, but I didn't know, like have the vocabulary what that was until that first class, my senior year of high school. Shout out Gabrielino High School.
Period.
And so from there, I was just like, okay, so I think I want to do something creative. Ended up at a liberal arts school, Occidental College in LA. I had no idea what the school was. It's 2,500 students.
Intimate.
Yeah, very intimate. Liberal arts, and I didn't even know what that was. Yeah. Arts part. I was like, okay, cool.
I'm liberal. I like art.
I was like, oh, we're learning to like read and write.
Screaming. not read and write, both of them at the same time. Arithmetic.
Right. And so you're not really learning like technical skills as you would, I guess, if you like went to like a classic like 4-year or even like a community college. And so I basically got to create my own major
That's amazing.
because I knew I wanted to do somewhere in like visual or like digital arts, but also kind of being in the community, being born in LA, based in LA. I wanted to like give back. So that's kind of like what I originated in college. But on my free time, I was just like really just trying to like gain my Adobe Suite skills, Photoshop.
Oh gosh, which is hard enough.
So I just became like the go-to flyer girl in college. Like I was like, I'll just take anything. I just want to build
portfolio.
I wasn't thinking about building portfolio. I was just like, this is just fun. And like, if I could just see my work around school, like that was cool to me.
That's so pure. I just enjoy creating. It's free. I just love it.
It's free. I see the art. Like it's cool. So then graduating school, I was kind of just keeping like clients that I had from that I met through school, and was kind of just throwing a bunch of art and like creating stuff on my Instagram. And so I don't know if you know Some Hoodlum on Instagram, but he does.
I love that name.
Yeah, he does like very trendy like pop culture puns.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think like I don't know, like Post Malone. Like maybe he'll do like Post Malone laundry. I don't know, Post Malone laundry, and it'll be like Post Malone doing laundry.
Wait, I feel like I've seen this. Okay, when you said that, it kind of made me be like, I've seen this brand of silliness.
Like, yeah, he does like really cool art. So that was like my inspo. So I was like just doing illustrations on my Instagram, and then I got a DM from someone who worked at Finish Line, and he was just like, "Yo, like this is cool. Can you do motion graphics?" And I was like,
"Why not?
Why not? Yeah,
sure." So I was just moving while I was making this. So look at that, a graphic on the move, me with the thing across the screen. It's like a little like the flip books. Screaming.
So basically I went on YouTube University,
right?
Some After Effects.
EDU.
So that was like my first big client was Finish Line. Shout out Brandon, who
that's fire.
Continues to look out for me. But that was like my first big client making graphics for like celebrity birthdays, anything trendy, like a album release anniversary or whatever. And so while I was doing that, I was just doing like random other little projects and working retail at Topshop. And then a few months later, I'm on Facebook and I see this girl looking for an animator, and I'm like, I know how to animate.
And that's the thing. We're going to hold that point because you just have to believe it yourself. Like there's a heavy level of delusion. I want to preface 100%. Everything that we're talking about with like, if you don't believe it, nobody else is going to. So back to you being an animator, air quote.
So I just like messaged her. I was like, let me at least like learn about the job. And shout out Micah. Really like just put a lot of faith in me because I barely had faith in myself.
Somebody's got to do it.
So this was a startup tech company, this Chinese-based like live streaming app. So before like TikTok Live, this is still like Twitch was like our biggest competitor at the time. And so that was my first role as like a content producer, which is such a vague title,
right?
Whatever that means. But in that position, it was just like building content for like the socials, like things for the app. And so that's
whatever they needed.
That was like my first 9 to 5. It was technically freelance, but full time, like in the office.
Yeah.
So I was there for 1.5 years. Basically, that department kind of just crumbled. And so I either had to stay and do sales or leave and find another job. So
they were like, we could give you a job.
Right. And I'm like,
but it has nothing to do with
what I've been doing. The last 1.5 years. And I was like, I don't want to talk to random people and try to sell something I don't really believe in. So I found a job on Indeed, and this was Sorella.
Amen.
Shout out your sweats.
Shout out. I feel like I need to like lift my leg.
I didn't even design that, but
Girls Tour.
Girls Tour.
I'm wearing sweats from the company where she used to design sweats.
Yes.
And among other things. But I just thought I'd, you know me, I love a little continuity.
Yeah, I love Sorella. Honestly, was probably like my dream job at the time. Like grown up following Heather, big fan of the brand, and it was like cool to just see first like a Black woman owned like business.
Hey Heather Sanders, come on the show, girl, if you want to talk about that. That's another topic.
And Brittany Turner. Brittany's also one of the founders, and so yeah, just to kind of be in streetwear. It was like Instagram baddie. Like it was just such my vibe.
Everything about her. It was streetwear. It was Instagram baddie. I was down. Like I was screaming. It didn't take much. Just those two main components of you. Like Exhibit A.
But yeah, it was just so fun just being like the primary designer, like helping doing all the girls tour merch. And so like first time really like creating like apparel and like accessories and like literally from start to execution and seeing like the full final products, collabing with FUBU, doing collab with City Girls. Like it was just
that's crazy.
So fun. It was just so great to just like work with other great women. Like everyone from that company I'm still friends with. And
I love that. That's big.
Such a great
and rare
time. Yeah. So yeah, that was there for about like a little over a year. And then basically, so all through this time, I'm still doing like freelance on the side. And so one of my big freelance, shout out to Brandon again, that got me the job at Finish Line, got me a job with Apple Music, like a month after starting Sorella. So that was my first time like doing agency work, like going to a creative agency, working with Apple Music. And so basically I met a girl there who ended up being a recruiter at Fashion Nova. And so she basically kind of like poached me to Fashion Nova while I was at Sorella. And like the money was good and I was kind of like going through it financially at the time. So I'm like, let me just take it. It's a big company and there was only so much I could grow at Sorella. So I took it and then COVID hit. And so that was crazy times working from home, which I was blessed, but it was pretty much a lot of work.
Constantly.
Working early into the late nights through the holidays. It was a lot. And so then
also you can get your Nova Babe text. Like literally, it's like, did you see the debate last night? Well, we're not debating if you should get these leather pants 20% off today on the website. Like that cracks me up though. Like whoever's email marketing and socials
working, like the devil works hard, but Fashion Nova works harder.
I don't even have enough notifications to be on. Like, what are your Google alerts? What are your Google alerts? Anyway,
okay. So I was there for a year and then basically quit because I was just burnt out. And so I tried to do like the freelance thing. And basically I got like a freelance gig with Lava Beauty, which is a small beauty brand that ended up being kind of more of a full-time gig. Was there for about a year and a half. And I'm still doing freelance for them, which has been great.
I'm wearing their eyeshadow today.
Oh, love it.
I'm just so supportive.
And then basically shout out Brandon again, who was working at Guess, offered me a job at Guess. And so then that's how I ended up at Guess as a content producer and was there for short of 2 years. And now I'm on the freelance grind, kind of just balancing between a few different clients. And this is my third week out here. So
it's only my third week out here.
Out
here for real, like doing your own thing, which is huge. Congratulations on that. Because most girls, like that's so scary, but you're doing it.
Scary. Yeah.
It's courageous.
We're in the thick of it. So
into the thick of it.
Was a long journey, but
here we are today.
Later,
that was so succinct. I would have been like, and then my toe started hurting one day. And so I went to the doctor, but I was still working it. Like that's what it would have been. So that's amazing. Now with taking us on the journey. It's the journey. I don't know why that's like in my mind today. It's the journey. But what are some of the biggest roadblocks you've hit just while trying to follow your dreams, but also work corporate? You touched on some of them a little bit, danced around them. So whatever you feel comfortable with. But what are some of those like major roadblocks that happen trying to balance both? And how did you push through them?
Yeah. I think for the longest, my ideas of like dreams were so small. Like I think it was very much just like I really get working on things right in front of me. So I'm just like, okay, like we're doing graphic design. Oh, I mean, like clients are coming. Like I'm obviously like going after stuff, but like at the same time,
one day at a time.
Yeah, one thing at a time. And so I think now I'm at a place where I'm like definitely trying to dream bigger and like having more faith in myself. And so I think the biggest roadblock has just been me and just not having faith in myself and kind of just kind of doing like what's in front of me and not really seeing bigger, which I still struggle with. It's really hard for me like to see big ideas a lot of times. But I think because the blessing in that is like I'll get things done, and like it's the con of that is like, am I working smarter, not just harder?
Facts.
And so yeah,
that's
I think
so good.
It's just been a journey of just like okay, let's figure out how fast can I work. Obviously with time, like things get easier. And so now I think I'm in a place where I'm like, all right, like I need to like really make sure that I'm like taking care of myself, whatever that looks like. And yeah, just kind of going for it. I mean, I think don't really know exactly what that big picture looks like, but yeah, I think right now I'm just kind of taking on whatever experience comes in front of me. And I think just like the internal battle is probably like the biggest roadblock. I think action is what kind of helps get through those moments.
I know that's right. I like shout out Holy Spirit, I believe.
Yeah.
triple check, because I feel like when you were saying that, what came on me was just the way that you have been able to previously be like, oh, I can figure that out. Oh, I can figure that out. Or I can figure that out when it specifically comes to like design and different elements of that and being creative. So I feel like now maybe the big picture is being able to still retain that energy of like, I'll figure that out as it comes, but then knowing like you'll have faith in yourself because you've always figured it out so far. So that just would be my encouragement, because, you know, I'm always like, Mika, we got to think about what's coming down the line. But it's like you've been able to do that in such, I'm giving you the practical example because I feel like that makes sense to you of like, okay, I didn't know how to maybe do animation and I kind of figured out the motion graphics and whatnot. And it's like, whatever that looks like, if that's being freelance and starting a business, if that's going back to an agency, if that's starting like your own complete, if that's influencing whatever it is, like up until this point in an area that you loved, you were able to figure it out because you were passionate about it. So that's all that it is.
Thank you, Marissa.
I'm telling you now, that's the Lord, honey. Just, I'm here to be a vessel. But I love that. And I think that's so like courageous and humble to be able to say that I have been my own roadblock at times, because I feel like most people can't say that or won't say that, especially recorded, honey. So that's amazing. Because oftentimes we are. It's like what we said earlier, like you have to have faith, but also that doubt that you have for yourself can also be debilitating. Right. So it's like you really like it's either one or the other. It's very black and white sometimes. I
mean, before we get to the next time, like I also just want to give you credit for providing the space to even share that, because I think you make it easy just to like kind of share like truly what feels genuine to me, and I don't think I could fully do that in all spaces. So I think space genuinely like really just help to just kind of
I love
like
you.
Communicate that from a genuine place.
I'm proud of you. I'm seeing growth even right now. Like it's really cool. I think a big part of believing in yourself is having other people who believe in you as well. And I think even for me, like as my friends, there have been times where y'all have been like, okay, you don't see it, but I do. And I feel like me to you. I'm like, well, I have to see what we get ready to do. So when you get ready to see it, you call me. No, literally. But I don't know. I think that's powerful too, to have the right people around you 100%. That can like have the faith for you. And I think even just like going through a lot in life lately, I've had friends saying to me, which is really, really like gotten me. It sounds like a hotel, like we'll keep the light on for you, but it's like we'll leave the candle lit. So it's like you may not believe this right now, or you may not have faith for it, or you may be tired, or you may be anxious, but like I'll stand in the middle for you. So I'm always standing in the middle for you. I love you. This is so sappy. We're gonna cry. We're like just getting started. We're going back, take your mind to just 3 short weeks ago when you were kind of working full time, trying to juggle that with free. It sounds like you've been freelancing for as long as this existed, because you're like, and still was freelancing in every part of the story. So, what's your secret to just like juggling the full-time job and still making time for just things that you're more passionate about, or like your dreams, whatever that may look like at the time on the side?
I'll preface. So when I was at Guess, that was probably the first time I took a break from freelancing, because just to put in context, like I was working in the office. So like doing a commute, an hour commute there, hour commute back, more or less, in office 5 days a week. And
your dot was always there.
My dot
I would be like
there.
Like every time I'm looking for you, there you are downtown.
Like, should I say what I named my location at work? But
I know it, and you don't need to know it.
Need to know it.
Just a place where she always was that she could not leave. So
it was my first time really. I know it wasn't my first time, but I think it just after COVID and like having a taste of working from home and having more flexibility in my schedule, like being back in office full time is so straining for a creative. Shout out to any creatives out there.
Let's talk about that.
But that was tough, and so it was hard for me to kind of keep up that creative energy in that space. So I would try to do like little freelance projects here and there, but like even that, like I feel like I wasn't able to give the best quality of work. So I was like, let me just focus on Guess. Like it's paying my bills. I'm there most of my life.
Right. I have to focus on it.
So I kind of
it's focused on me. So
exactly. So I think for that. Yeah, that was tough. It was hard to like really balance. But I think in previous 9 to 5, which is strange because I've worked in office full time. I was able to freelance. And basically just like, you're like, okay. But I think a lot of it, the motivation was just like, I want to build my portfolio. I want to create things that excite me. I want to work with people that like excite me.
Right.
And so that was really the biggest motivating factor. And I just, I think my time at Guess was just, I guess because it was also my first like corporate job in office and just new.
Yeah, true. Because the other one was like work from home, COVID days.
Or like even if it wasn't work from home, like I was working with people that like looked more like me.
That too.
And yeah, it was just a different environment. And so I think that like has the biggest impact on just my creative flow.
That's so true. I feel like an environment can stifle you in such a way that you could literally be at the job to do the creative work. Like you would be the creative director and feel like there's nothing. I think a good like equivalent is social media, for example. Like you'll always see social media managers on LinkedIn will be like, if the process is stifling, it won't get done. And I think there's like even just approval processes, right? It's like, okay, well, we want to post this, the joke that I was making earlier, it's timely, it makes sense as a trend. But then having that go through all the suits and the red tape and like trying to explain it, especially to people that don't maybe look like you, so they're not seeing the same thing, so they're not plugged into the community they're supposed to be trying to connect to. Like it leads you to so many other avenues of stress that I think maybe jobs that are a little more linear don't have in the same way. And I was having this conversation with someone the other day about getting to a place where you're seeing the job as like a paycheck rather than like letting it suck out your soul in some capacity, because you're like fighting for every little thing. And I think especially as Black women, it can get to a point where you feel like, no, I gotta push back because about everything. Because it can feel that way. But I think, child, now that I'm getting older, y'all got it. It's where we were talking about. And I was like, but I think for me, where I really struggled with that in the past was it was about things that I really cared about, communities I cared about. And it's hard. The person was like, well, yeah, that's different. Like when we're putting something out that does not serve an entire community of people, or that like is not, this graphic design has everybody in here that looks the same. Like those things like that, I think are hills that you unfortunately do have to die on. But once you've done all the emotional labor of that, who's about to go home and be like, all right, let's open up Photoshop?
Yeah, right.
Like,
that's real.
Please.
That's real.
Please. I've been crying at my desk all day, basically. You know what I mean? Like now I'm going to go home and get the juices flowing. Like that's not really real.
I think just like, you know, you can only
do so much.
You do so much. And like, if your cup's not overfilled, like, and you're just trying to create out of an empty cup, like it's just impossible. Yeah. So I just think like, and also just finding inspiration. Like I was just literally in an office space, and so there's only so much inspiration I could gain from the walls around me. Like I gained a lot of my inspiration personally, like being outside, like driving around, traveling, and because that wasn't happening to the extent it was before, I think that also was stifling some of my creative juice flows.
Do you feel like you would have any advice to give, having experienced that, but just staying motivated to be creative? Because I know we just kind of made it like, you can't. But how could someone stay motivated to be creative when the corporate world is so rigid? Like whether that be at work, outside of work, like you just mentioned, kind of going out, being out and about. But what would you advise to past Mika and then to maybe someone who's trying to figure that out?
I think just like traveling when you can, if you can, even just like weekend excursions, or
staycations,
even like on my commutes, like there's times where I'll like see some graffiti or like street art and I'll like take a photo. I'm like, that's cool, like maybe I can try to use that. I think also like if you're into photography or anything like that, you can practice having an eye doing anything. Like you could go on a walk and be like, oh, especially in LA, it's like always something written on the sidewalk. You could be like, oh, bloop. Like I just take all these things. It's probably just cluttering up my camera roll. Like don't build your life around content, build content around your life. Ooh, so going throughout your life, like if I tell myself this, like, okay, well, instead of being like, I need to do this so I can make a good ready with me or whatever, it's like, I know I'm going to go to this cool event on Thursday. So I'm already thinking like, what's the content I'm going to make for what I'm already doing in my life? Because I think that's more authentic to people anyway. And like art imitates life, if you will. So it should be more transparently inspired by your environment. Yeah.
And if that environment is not the best at work, you have to find things outside of work. Anyway, if you're creative or if you literally are just, I want to be an accountant, ain't nothing wrong with that because that's creative with numbers. I can never. I don't think, unless the Lord equips me out of nowhere. I don't see that for myself. But I think like having people around you, having places you can go that do pour you into your cup, that do fill it up.
I mean, I think I'm also not giving myself credit because I think I was still being creative outside.
You definitely were.
It just didn't look like how it did before, and I was doing more like graphic design stuff. And so that turned to like getting a point and shoot film camera, shooting.
Thank you. There we go.
And then now like the food content, like my goal was just to be Yelp Elite, and then that just kind of led to like.
Sorry, I just clicked what you said. My goal was just to be Yelp Elite.
No, exactly.
And next thing you know, I had a whole account called Mika Likes to Eat. Da-da-da.
Exactly. And that was just like a fun thing. I just like to eat. And
yeah.
then I was like, I like making little reels.
Exactly.
And little photos of
you were just enjoying life and you were like, let me share this. Exactly. That's how it should be.
Right.
That's like authentic.
My Instagram was basically just like a visual diary.
It was.
Slash just like emptying out my camera roll.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, yeah. So I think I was finding other ways to be creative. It just didn't look like how I guess I thought it would look, or like how it's looked before. Right. Which that'll preach in and of itself. That's true.
Because I feel like you have to be open, especially as any form of creative. And I think like I also want to put a disclaimer because whenever people say I'm not creative, what are you talking about? First of all, you were created by a creator. Okay. You're in his image. So everybody has creativity, no matter what you're doing with it, and being open to that evolving. Like even if you're a mom, like, and that's like you're a stay-at-home mom, being open to different ways to make the children's lunches, child, or like activities to do with them, books to read, art to put up in the house. Like there's just I think a lot of it of being creative is just kind of like being alive, like not allowing yourself to get numb because there are so many dark things in this world. But I do feel like creativity and art is one of the few sources of light. So being able to like look for that, seek it out, especially even when it looks different in different seasons. That's tea, because I was about to say, I'm sitting here thinking like, I don't want to say she lying, but like, I still definitely saw stuff on Instagram. And I remember messaging you and be like, you should make an account for the food.
Yeah, I need to get all the credit for that, for real.
Not even that. Not like I was like, I'm tired of food. It wasn't that. But I just was like, she's really making a lot of content about this. It's a waste that there's not a dedicated account. Like that's that's how my brain works. So even that, sometimes it just helps to help others be creative, and that gets you. Yeah. That gets me going, child. Mika does like to eat, and I like to see where Mika be going because Mika is not a picky eater. So I just watch and I'm like, huh. But like even that in of itself is a cool moment to see. Maybe if you had been in a space where you could be doing freelancing, doing the creativity you were used to, you would have never started this.
That's so true. Yeah.
So once again, we opening ourselves up as we go. It's giving the journey. Yeah, it is a journey. I'm learning from this. Like I feel like whenever I do this, I talk to people and then I'm like, you need to be telling that to yourself. What tips do you have for avoiding burnout? Which we're dancing around, right? So when you're working that 9 to 5, trying to hustle, whether that's freelancing or making like maybe you're an influencer or content creator, like how do I avoid being burned out when I'm working with these folks all day and then I'm trying to come home and have a 5 to 9?
That's a great question for you.
Pause.
No, I mean, I definitely struggle with that. I think the reason why I had to leave my last job was because of burnout. And that's just a constant thing I'm consistently working on. But I guess just like I left before things really hit the fan. So
that's a blessing.
It's a great question.
So knowing when to leave. Let's talk about that.
Yeah,
then.
Maybe knowing when to leave. I mean, it was kind of already getting bad. Like I was getting panic attacks and like just kind of having mental breakdowns.
Yeah,
through it.
Yeah, so, it's time ago.
It honestly took people around me being like, whoa, you need to take a step back. Like, this is not a healthy environment. Right.
That's why you need good people to see it.
Yeah, exactly. Because I always felt that internally, but when it was starting to get outside of myself and I was being told, I was just like, okay, like, there's more to life than this. Yeah.
I think that's something that's not talked about a ton, not to say any specific companies, but I think workplace trauma is so much more real than I think I realized. And I was having a conversation the other day and I was like being triggered as if it was like an ex or something like that. Like it was visceral in my body. And I think I was like, oh Lord, well, another thing for therapy, because I just think it's like, it can really change you in so many ways that you would talk about. Like it's obviously our society is so hyper fixated on relationships. So it's like, oh, well, after my ex, I didn't eat the same. I didn't talk to people the same. I thought everybody was against me. I didn't trust anybody. But like you can get all those same symptoms from a bad work environment. Yeah, I agree. Honestly. And I think other countries get this, European countries and whatnot, they understand this. That's why they always have like holidays and they're very like, they don't like live to work. They work to afford their life. And I think that's something that capitalism. But I don't know. I think that it impacts the quality of your life so much, your mental health. I saw this like thing that was like 70% of your life is impacted by like a bad manager. I said, good Lord. And I think when you see it quantified like that, it's different. So with that, being able to leave, if you are burnt out to a place that's unhealthy, like coming to peace with that.
Right.
And being like,
I mean, I think what you said before too, like sometimes you just got to literally dumb it down and be like, I'm here for a paycheck.
And protect your energy.
Protect your energy, because I think especially as Black women in corporate spaces, like we're just going to go above and beyond.
Because we have to.
We have to, like off survival.
Like it's not for fun.
Yeah, it's not for fun. It's not like we're even expecting anything from it. It's just like surviving.
Yeah.
But sometimes like we just need to take a step back and be like, okay, like I should not tie my whole personal well-being to this job and tie all this weight to it. Like it is what it is. The job's getting done, and sometimes that's
y'all will be fine.
Yeah.
I think it's hard too, because I tell my mom this a lot. I'm like, if we even have the opportunity, it's because we're overqualified as is. So I think you might have said this to me before. Like you were like, yes, but your 100% is someone else's 200. So it's like my 73 is somebody's 120. Like it's going to get the job done. Yeah. It's just kind of coming to terms with that yourself. And that obviously that constant fear of we have to work 2 times as hard to get half as much. Right. So it's like, if I'm not working twice as hard, like, are they going to know? Am I going to be out of here? But I also think like keeping your options open, networking, obviously trying to balance the grind of like having your freelance or whatever that is, your passion projects on the side, and trying to get to a place where you can monetize them, so that if you feel, maybe corporate's not for you forever or working for someone else, you can start building a path to swerve 100%. And sustain yourself in the meantime. But with that, building that path, how have you used those skills from your 9-to-5 to maybe help manage your side projects? Because I know we've talked a lot about the negativities of a 9-to-5, but I be telling you as a creative, I be telling you got to get that business mind headed too, because we can't just be like do.
So I still struggle with, but I think I was really blessed to have a strong team. Shout out my manager Haley,
period,
and Paige, who I worked really closely with, who are both very organized and kind of help streamline just like the content creation process from like the social media side of just having like a process, and like kind of picking their brains on that end was really helpful for me, just because I'm kind of like in between like a type B, type A, but I think creatively, like if I'm in the zone, I'm definitely type B, and like just want to like create flow with no just vibes.
Right. I'm screaming. Makes me want to choke.
But then there is a side of me that can be type A when it's just honestly, I think just me and myself and like my workflow. Right. So I think just working collaboratively has really helped me just kind of streamline that process and be more organized, and just have like a better sense of like the whys behind the creation. Like I think it's easier for me to think of that like after it's been created, but I think from like pre-production, like figuring out all those questions and logistics, and now things don't feel as scary or like as chaotic now having a streamlined process
in your personal work or at work.
Well, actually, I think just in both. Just like both in like the workspace, but then also my personal work, I've been able to transfer those.
I love that. I think sometimes it's the unknown, especially as a creative. It's like, okay, well, I've always done it this way, so will I be able to do it otherwise? And it's like, okay, well, now I've seen that the world didn't explode, and this actually is helping me get my work done on time. So being open to transferring the skills, it sounds like.
And knowing that like different companies, different industries, even if it's the same job role, will do things differently. 100%. And so just knowing like any new project, any new job, it's going to be a new process.
Always a learning curve.
People are using different platforms, different programs. So just being open to that has just honestly gained me more confidence in knowing that like I can go into a project not knowing everything, but we'll figure it out
as we go. I think everything is teachable except for maybe being like a neuroscientist. Every other job is like, I'll figure it out. And like you have to believe that, because I think we're not socialized, women in general, but like especially women of color, like we're not socialized to be like, I'll figure it out, because no one's gonna give us that chance. Like there's a certain group of people that just kind of get to just like show up, and they have this blind faith and confidence because the world has reinforced that in them. But like I'll talk to my guy friends that are white men and be like, okay, got it. And like I'll try to transfer some of that just why not?
Right,
Why wouldn't this
not?
work for me? Why wouldn't they give me this? Why wouldn't I say I can do all that? Like, they really mean it.
Period.
It's amazing. I mean, like, you're lying, kind of. And they're like, no, I'm not. I can figure it out. And I'm like,
oh.
You're and that's just like the world, right? Like it's giving you a deck of cards that's in your favor more often than not. So I think sometimes it is trying to alter our brains to see it as half full.
Right.
And that way, hopefully to get there. And I think we've danced around these last two, so I'm just going to put them together, but sort of keeping going when your day job feels like it's holding you back from what you really want to do. Like, what's a quick piece of advice you'd give for that? Because when you get to that point, you come in and they're like,
yeah. Honestly, my decision it felt impulsive, but I know it's like a long time coming. I kind of was just like, I'm gonna quit next week.
Right.
That's literally what happened. I just like stuck to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the biggest thing was because I felt like I was losing myself in the corporate space. I couldn't be my true self. Like I was losing time with friends, like family. I just wasn't the best version of myself. And so when I was able to envision a life where I can fully be myself, where I want to wear what I want to wear, like really create the day-to-day life that I wanted. I'm like, that I can do that and not be tied to this like should place into like more of a must place. And so once I made that decision, I was able to just open up a lot more. I just felt a lot more excited about life, like knowing that opportunities are endless. I think being stuck in that specific space was really stifling, and I think it was making me feel very down just because I've already hit that ceiling. I was like losing steam. And so when I finally was able to see what life could look like, it just brought new energy. And
I love that.
Yeah, I think for my kid, like future self, or even my inner child, like I really want her to believe that she can do anything, and I have to live and try it. And even if it doesn't work out, like at least I tried. Right. But I think just the fact that like I'm doing it I'm already living like my ancestors' biggest dreams.
And it's telling little Mika that like big Mika will figure it out, or y'all will figure it out together. Like I've been trying to give grace to current Marissa as well as little Marissa, because I feel like I'm so sorry, little Marissa, I'm letting us down. And she's like touches my shoulder and she's like, no, this is what we wanted when we were little. Like literally, it's like, wait, we actually are living so many things, even if I'm like, the world's on fire. Like it's on fire in a city you always wanted to be. It's far. It's like that's the theme. If y'all don't take nothing for this, we figured it out so far by God's grace. We'll continue to figure it out.
Exactly.
Like there's this feeling of, okay, it has to be figured out by this age or this time, or like I worked this job. And I think a big thing too in these industries is being so tied. God is stripping off of me is the identity tied to like where you've worked. I've always worked at like really big name companies and things like that. So I'm like freelance and I like stability. Like I want to be creative in a stable environment. I also think if you're still at your job, we're not telling you to quit without a plan. Please don't call me because I can't help you at all. But at all, it's crazy. Don't call in. Love ya. But if you're still there, I would just look for other ways. Like I started my podcast. I would look for ways to do the things that get you a little closer to your dreams while you also still have a paycheck that helps you chase them. And on that note, we're going to go into some of y'all's questions, and then we're going to close out because we could yap forever. But this section of the show is called Bids. So it's just questions, letters, etc. that the people ask, when they know we're going to be chatting about a little something that hits a nerve for them. So y'all can DM us at Bid on You, the podcast, or watch our story for the chance to ask your questions. We're going to try that out this season. So be on the lookout when we finna drop an episode. We might answer them on the show, but this is kind of what we just talked about, but even more distinct to the people. What's your advice, they want to know, for someone who's trying to take the leap and pursue their passions, but is afraid of not having stability, like I just said? And then how can they get started today? What are some practical tips / steps? I love practicality, honey. Yeah. I'm like, how?
I think in terms of stability, the first thing is what is stability, and defining what that is for you. Because I mean, you can have a quote unquote stable job, but people are getting fired, laid off every day. You just never know what's going to happen. And so I think it's just defining like exactly what is stability. Like even for your, like, you could be
what's your comfort?
Stable, but like how's your mental being, how's your emotional well-being, like is that stable? Because for me that was not, and that was the breaking point for me.
I can tell. And
so even though I did preface, like I was like made the decision of like quitting next week, I was planning for months. Like I started getting back to freelancing, and
safety nets,
and basically just kind of doing small things. Like I was doing the food stuff, and kind of just building my own. I mean, it's both subconscious and consciously, but I'm blessed that I started that months ago.
Amen.
And then it took basically I had a freelance client reach out, and so when that came up, that was pretty much the week before I decided to quit, where I was like, okay, that'll be my launch pad.
Amen.
And so if anything, like I'll figure it out. Theme of this whole
child, this makes me want to throw up, but yes.
But yeah, I think I can define like what that stability looks like, and just even 3 weeks out, I feel so much better mentally and emotionally, and I feel like I have more capacity to do more things. And I think once I made that decision, things have just been opening up, and more opportunities have been coming.
Wow.
I'm obviously still figuring a lot of things out, but yeah, I just feel a lot more optimistic, and I'm also like still open to like looking for jobs. Like I'm not closing down the 9 to 5 completely. But like, yeah, I couldn't even really job search when I was
there the whole day on their computer. Me on their computer.
Right.
That's so funny.
Yeah, now I have the time, and I think for me, most importantly, was the mental and emotional capacity to even explore those options.
Facts. And I feel like that's so reaffirming when anything changes in life, like when you leave a relationship or friendship or a job or whatever, and then things start to work out for you. It's like, oh, okay, God, my fault. I guess the connection was messing up, but I'm getting it now.
Like, what was I attached to in the beginning? Like, you know, it's like I maybe just had to let things be and see what happens.
That makes me want to choke. So I'll give my side of it because, like, yuck. I think within that, though, I know I said this earlier, like starting a podcast, creating content, whatever that is for you, like whatever makes you excited. And I also saw this thing, not to like give ChatGPT an ad for free, but I saw where it was like put in like your dream life and ask ChatGPT what you would need to do. You didn't see this? It's amazing. It's like whatever you want to do, like type in, oh, I want to have my own show one day, and then write like, how can I grow Bid on You to be a network television show? And it literally was like, do this, build this, then reach out to this person, like all of that. So if you need some little inspo, and ask people what they think that you're good at. Like if you're not super sure, but you know this ain't it, be open to informational interviews, coffees, chatting with people, researching. I think there's excitement in that can give you that fresh wind, because you're like, this is not my forever, this is not my end, I'm just getting started. So
I love ChatGPT. She's bestie.
Hey, y'all need to drop an ad in here. That's what we're gonna manifest for season 2. Big money. That's what they'll be calling me. So to close out, how are you going to bid on you in this new phase of your life?
Yeah, that's such a heavy loaded question.
That's why it's last. I've loosened you up and now you can't go anywhere.
I think just making affirmations on this decision, and just making sure I'm just taking care of myself and setting those boundaries. Right now I'm like in a season of yes, but obviously like learning to say no when needed, and making sure I'm not falling into the cycle of burnout. And yeah, I'm just excited to just work on projects and people that I feel truly
so excited
so much about, and to finally like work in a space where my values align. I think that's the biggest thing. So
can't trade that.
Yeah. And so I think just finding the blessing in that, and just, you know, feeling like starting my day with gratitude, ending with gratitude, and just doing the best I can.
Doing the best we can with what we got. That's how every episode ends, but truly, like, because I'm still trying to do that. So here we are. Well, thank y'all for watching. Thank you for coming. I love you so much. I'm so proud of you. Like, I'm over here like, truly.
No, I'm trying to follow your footsteps.
I don't know where we're going, but y'all be sure to rate the show. Hit download so you don't miss any episode drops, and follow us. What you can do, I don't know if you follow my footsteps, but you can follow Bid on You, the podcast, on Instagram and TikTok. And we love y'all, and we'll see you next time. Mwah! Kisses. Love that for us. We did it, Joe.
We did it, Joe.